Hi, welcome to another video of Attempted Living. My goal, as in all videos, is to help you have a bit better life, improve your life. This video is going to be right for you if you like listening to someone talking about their thoughts and perspectives and experiences in kind of like a stream of consciousness way. Uh, so I'm going to talk about what I'm going through, and hopefully you can take some lessons from this video to improve your own life. So let's go into it. I recently came back from an interview and it did not go so well. So I want to talk about uh, first what happened that uh, made it not go well, my feelings towards that, strategies to avoid future failure, and also reasons why I knowingly don't care and don't pursue in strategies that will avoid future failure, and what I'm gonna do to avoid that. Okay, too abstract. Let's talk about details. So, I had an interview, and they asked me about specific details about a tool. And I typically don't memorize specific details about tools because there's something called Google, which has all that kind of knowledge available. So over the years, if it's a question that can be solved by Google, I don't really commit that to memory because I know that at any job, I will have access to Google and I can figure that answer out. So I focus instead on learning ways for me to think better and solve problems better. I think of ways to work better with my coworkers, to work better with managers, to deliver better results through better relationships. This is where I focus all my time and attention. I don't focus my time and attention on memorizing details about different tools. Now, if you think about intelligence as being one is knowledge, right? Just being able to know things makes you one form of intelligent. This is the person who can recall interesting facts or important details in important situations. Like if you're in need of medical help and this person happens to know exactly what to do, that is highly relevant and useful intelligence. However, a lot of work is gathering some knowledge through Google or research, and then thinking about it to make decisions. And decision making and thinking are two other kinds of intelligence. So there's the intelligence of memorizing stuff, the intelligence of thinking about stuff, and the intelligence of making decisions with the details and the thinking to make the right decision. And then the further, I guess, a fourth form of intelligence is making that decision in a team so that everyone is on the same page and is happy and able to work with each other on the final decision. That is a huge skill and mark of intelligence. So, between these four skills, I don't spend very much time doing knowledge recall because Google exists. However, what I'm finding is that in a lot of interviews that I go to for new jobs, the primary focus is on knowledge testing. They'll ask me specific details like, okay, in this situation, what do you do? And I'll be like, okay, this is a clearly well-defined, classic fundamental detail that exists in like 100 textbooks and 1,000 websites. Like with one Google search, I can get the answer. So I don't memorize it because I know that at any point in time that I need to know the answer, I can Google for it. And what this kind of thinking has resulted in is uh, a failed interview. The interviewer's conclusion was that I'm not qualified for the job because I don't even know the basic facts about the basic tool that is necessary to be able to do the job. Um, I mean, this is what I'm taking from the rough feedback that I heard about the interview. And so okay, so that's the situation. So part one of the video, explain the situation. Part two of the video, my feelings towards the situation. Obviously, I feel that it's very, very dumb to test memorization skills on problems that have already been solved, especially in this day and age where you can instantly look up any sort of knowledge question with Google. So the idea that the way I feel about this is having an interview that's designed where memorization of specific details is mandatory in this day and age seems very backwards, seems very unnecessary, seems very an unusual testing strategy, very outdated, let's say. Because in the past, before Google, it made sense, right? People who had knowledge were smarter than people who didn't have knowledge because they had the answers and these people didn't. But with Google, someone who's memorized everything has the same intelligence in terms of knowledge as someone who can access a computer with internet and type a query into Google and read the results and synthesize that knowledge into an answer. And so my feelings towards this is it's kind of dumb. However, from the perspective of the company, I can empathize and understand that you have a limited time with someone who's interviewing at your company, and devising a method to screen people is very difficult because you have a very small amount of time to make a decision. And so you're going to make a lot of assumptions based on very small snapshots of time with another person that could be widely wrong in many directions. You could think they're really good when they're not, or you could think they're really bad when they're not. So it's really hard to get a read on something if you have very little time with them. And so coming up with a reliable interview test is hard. So while I feel unhappy and angry about this, I understand why interviews work this way. Because a couple reasons. One is so that it's fair. Because let's say that the 20 previous employees all passed the same test. Then the 21st employee gets hired without passing the test. Then the first 20 employees will be pissed because they'll think that that's not fair. I had to go through that test, so everybody else has to go through the same test. It's kind of like pledging to a fraternity or sorority. Like everyone has to go through the same thing to join the club so that you can be one of us. And so it's kind of very baseline human social hierarchy, social groups, psychology, sociology, where, to be one of us, you must go through the same trials that we went through to join the group. So in that sense, I understand why the test that companies come up with generally don't change and become standardized And then it's kind of like a standardized test, just like you've experienced in school your whole life. There's a rubric, and everyone has to pass it in the exact same way. And the test has very little to do with real life. Just like in school, the test doesn't have much to do with real life. Just like in work, the interview has very little to do with the actual work. So my feelings towards this situation are strong disgust towards having to spend a lot of time to learn skills and memorize details in order to pass an interview. And then once I get into the job, then I'm focusing not on memorizing knowledge, but on thinking about the knowledge, making decisions with the knowledge, and working with other people on the knowledge. This is what being at a job is about, not about memorizing stuff. However, that's how the system is designed. And so for a long time, I have rebelled against this. Anytime I see a system that makes no sense, I have a tendency to not want to cooperate because I don't want to. I think that cooperating with something that you don't believe in and don't agree with is kind of giving it power, giving it an ability to persist. And I don't want it to persist because I think that system is wrong. I think an interview should spend more time assessing how a person thinks, how they make decisions, and how they make those decisions with other people, as well as some baseline check to see that they can actually learn whatever complicated knowledge you will need to have to do the job. That is, you can't do algebra without first learning how to add and subtract. So addition and subtraction first, then multiplication. So this makes sense. However, well, actually, so let's say you start with addition. That's like talking about math here. Then you learn about multiplication. Then you learn algebra. Then you learn geometry, calculus, and then advanced math topics where you start thinking in terms of very abstract things where you no longer have much specific details of, say, algebra or geometry. Then in that same way, the point that I'm trying to make is you don't need to know specific details about algebra and geometry in order to do advanced mathematics. Because advanced mathematics, some of those topics are in very different, like the details that you're working with don't involve the details here. So to test someone whether they can solve trigonometry when they're trying to research something advanced doesn't. Okay, I'm not being relatable. Sorry. Okay, I need to come up with an example where you can relate. That example was a bad example. What is a better example? I guess we can talk about language, where there is like a single word, choosing your words, then choosing your phrases, then choosing your sentences, then choosing your paragraphs, then choosing your chapters in a book, or deciding whether it should be a book or like a short story or a poem, like deciding the medium of your communication method. And so someone could be really good at constructing sentences, but really bad at picking the right words without using a thesaurus. And so if that person who's really good at writing sentences, but needs the aid of a Google to find synonyms, uh, then if they're put in an interview where they're not allowed to use Google, then they'll come up with sentences that make sense but don't use the perfect words. And then to judge that person as a bad sentence writer because they used the wrong words, because they didn't memorize every correct word and synonym in the human language, sounds insane. But that's what a lot of interviews do. Okay, wait, backtrack. What am I saying right now? So, I've already talked multiple times about how the interview process seems to be focusing on the wrong form of intelligence out of the 4 forms of intelligence that I just described in this video. And I also described how, because of the nature of how humans behave in a group, that a company who has hired people using a set rubric has to continue hiring people through that set rubric in order to preserve the consistency and standardization of that trial and hazing in order for someone to join the company. Then, okay, so given all this details, then I know that I cannot change how the company operates and thinks as someone who's interviewing for the company. So if I want to work for the company, I must conform to that standard. And this standard seems to be industry-wide. Like the whole industry follows this standard. Much of life follows this standard. Most people follow the standards of society, especially in a workplace. They will judge people who are interviewing for the workplace according to the basest, most pervasive social judgment out there. And so in order for you to pass the test, you must conform. And so, and this is where I have a lot of difficulty because I'm not very much of a conformer, right? I don't think most people are. Most people are fairly independent, and they become dependent when people more powerful than them break them, right? Your parents might break you to force you to obey them. The police will break you to enforce the laws on you. Authorities like teachers, administrators, managers will use their power to enforce their control over you. It's very rare to meet the rare and special managers, teachers, and authority figures who know how to work with you in a way that is a good relationship and positively incentivize you to improve, to operate in a win-win situation. One where they're not making you conform, but one where you want to aid them, and you both are happy that it is going on. So where did I lost my train of thought. I wish I could replay my video while I'm recording the video to know what I just said. Yeah, if someone knows how to do that, please tell me. In the meantime, I guess to conclude, the point is that if I want to get hired at a company that tests based on knowledge, which is most companies, then I need to do the work to memorize a bunch of stuff that I'm probably going to forget once I get the job. So even though it's ironic that in order to do work and sell these skills, I have to first do work and sell skills that are completely irrelevant to the job. That's the way the game is played. That's the way the world works. You have to do this to get this. And sometimes you may not want to do this, but you have to in order to get this. And so my conclusion is that, yeah, I just have to do what I don't want to do in order to get what I want. And so that's a difficult thing to swallow. That's something that I wanted to talk about on this video, which is how do you get yourself to do something that you don't want to do in order to get something that you want? I've struggled with this a lot. And, the first thought that comes to mind is you kill all of your emotions and you just do it, right? This is a common approach. It's probably the most popular approach, where you just kill yourself, conform, and do it. And this is, it's effective because likely you will be able to do it, but it is, it sucks. And yeah, if you ever wonder why it seems like the people who succeed are the people who kiss ass and give in and conform and people please and, compromise themselves for other people in order to get ahead. From the outside you judge them and you think, oh, that's a, whatever, right? You could judge them for whatever reason, but at the end of the day, they recognize that they cannot get this unless they do this. And whether they want to do this or not doesn't change the fact that if they want this, they have to do this. And so, yeah, how do you get over the hump of not wanting to do this and just doing it? So one way is to think about it that it's temporary, right? You're not going to do this forever. You're going to do this until you get this, and then you don't have to don't do this anymore. And I'm speaking generally, like outside of interviews now, just generally in life, because then it's more applicable, it's more relatable. So I'm sure you could think of something where you want to do this, but in order to get it, you have to do this, but you really don't want to do this. And so, yeah, you would have the same problem that I'm facing. However, this would be one perspective where you're thinking from your own perspective, right? My perspective is I don't want to do this, and in order to get this, I have to do this. Well, if you think about it from the other perspective, right? So adding some empathy into this equation, which is something that I highly promote in attempted living and for you in general, for your life and well-being and happiness and to improve your life and be better, is so to think about it from the other point of view. They are a company, a group of people who has set a standard, right? A standardized test or rubric or expectation. They want this for this, right? So let's say that person is you. Let's say you are someone who will give away this, but only if they give you this, right? So someone else comes in front of you and they want this. So you say, okay, give me this and you can have it, right? I'm willing to give you this. I just need you to give me this. And then the person who comes up to you doesn't give you this, but still wants this. How do you feel? Right? It's kind of like you don't feel good. I would not feel good if I said, hey, like, if you give me $2, I'll give you $2. And then the person comes and gives me like an apple and $1. And I'm like, that's not what I asked. I wanted $2 for $2. Why are you giving me an apple and $1 for $2? Like, it's disappointing to not get what you want. It's disappointing to have a mismatch in expectations. Like, I said I wanted this, and I will give you this, and you didn't bring me this. So, using empathy, you can see from the other point of view, they're disappointed too, right? Like, I'm disappointed that if I interview and I don't get the job because I don't have this, I hate the system. I hate the way that interviews are structured. I hate the way that, society has these standardized tests which have very little to do with the reality of everything. um, but from the other point of view, um, they're upset that they're not getting what they want. And so by approaching someone and not giving them what they want, you're kind of creating unhappiness. So then the question is, well, why are you okay, so if you didn't know that they wanted this for this, okay, then as you live life, you'll learn more and more about what people want in return for what. So once you understand what people want in return for what, then the question is, are you willing to provide it? Right? So here comes morality and values. Like, there are some things that you would not be willing to do. So no matter what it is on the other side, you won't do it because it's against what you believe in. If it's not against what you believe in, for example, memorizing a bunch of knowledge, it's like, it doesn't break any morality for me. It's just a waste of time. But it's only a waste of time if I think about it for me, right? It's a waste of time from my perspective. But from the other point of view, it's not a waste of time because that's what they want. They want this. So if I think about this as I'm giving someone what they want so that they can give me what I want, and it can be a win-win interaction, then that can help change my perspective of the situation from, oh, there's this thing that I hate and I despise doing and I don't want to do because I think it's dumb. I can change my perspective from that to, I could give something to someone to make them happy, and in return they will give something back to me to make me happy. I don't know. Well, that's my ramblings for tonight. This kind of works in relationships, dating, friends, family, everything else in between. Everybody wants something and they're willing to give something for it. And yeah, and the question is, are you willing to give what they want? And that's a function of both, do you want what they'll give you in return, and can you get over the you don't want to do this, right? So hopefully you can get over the not wanting to do this by recognizing that this is a gift to the other person to make them happy so that they can give you this. Or you can determine that this is actually not something you want to do, then you should move on with your life and just not pursue this. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Please share your thoughts below. Please subscribe if you like this video. And remember, there are more resources at attemptedliving.com.